guys, it's Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a super simple net for your rat's cage. And these nets are really great for fall breakers, for climbing enrichment, and really just for filling up space in the cage in a way that kind of encourages your rats to be active and adds extra enrichment. Anyways, to make this net, you will need three things. One is a pair of scissors, one is some rope, and one is some zip ties. Optionally, you may also want to have some tape on hand, which you'll see the reason for in a second. Okay, so to go ahead and get started making this net, the first thing you want to do is cut out a few pieces of your rope. Now, how long you make these is going to depend on how big you want your net to be, and I want mine to stretch the entire length of my cage, which is a Critter Nation, so I've chosen to make my rope pieces more than 2 feet long. Now, as far as how many pieces of rope you need to cut out, this will depend again on how big you want to make your net. Now, personally, I think the least amount of rope pieces you want to cut is 9, because you'll want at least 4 for the framework, and then you'll want at least 5 going across the other direction. That being said, you very much can go above that, and in this video, I will be making a net using 6 pieces and 7 pieces for a total of 13 pieces of rope. So go ahead and cut out all your rope pieces to size. Now put your 2 sets of rope in 2 different piles, and then go ahead and set out the lesser number of ropes horizontally in a row, and I like to set these about 3 inches apart, although how far you set them apart is going to depend on how big you want the net squares to be. I just think 3 inches is kind of ideal for most rats. Now this is when the optional tape I was mentioning can come in handy, because if you tape down your strands on both ends, this will make it a lot easier once you start laying down your second set of ropes, because it means that the initial strands can't move. So I went ahead and laid out my 6 pieces of rope, and I taped them all down. And then after this, you want to take your remaining pieces of rope, which in my case is 7 pieces, and then go ahead and lay them crosswise on the rope pieces that you already laid out. Now you want to make the spacing as even as possible, and as you can see here, your end result should look like a grid pattern. Okay, so once you've laid out all your rope, the next thing to do is to attach all the pieces using zip ties. So to do this, just go ahead and take out your zip ties and put 1 zip tie on each place where the ropes cross. Now once you've done this for each row, then take your scissors and just cut off the tail ends of the zip ties that aren't being used. And once you finish cutting off all the tail ends of the zip ties, you now have a choice, because you can either go ahead and cut off all the remaining rope outside of the main grid system, or you can zip tie together some of the remaining rope to create little handles to hang the net up by. Now, if you don't have enough rope, or if you just prefer to cut off all the rope, you can still very much hang the net easily by just taking a clip and adding it to each of the corner grids. And that's pretty much it. The only thing you need to do at this point is to flip over the net so that your rats are walking on the smooth parts of the zip ties, and then go ahead and hang it in your cage. So yeah, that is how you can make a super simple net. I have made a version of this in the past that involved tying, and I think that version is perhaps a little sturdier if you have rats that are chewers. However, this version here is definitely a lot quicker to make, and personally my rats haven't shown much interest in chewing the zip ties in these nets, so it works pretty well for me, but how well it works for you is going to depend a lot on your rats. Now, one final thing you can do if you feel like your zip ties are too sharp on one side, or you feel like your rats are going to chew them, is you can go ahead and cut out some fleece strips, or just fabric strips, and then go ahead and tie these around the zip ties. And this will ensure that not only can your rats not get to them and so not chew them, but if there are any sharp parts left on the tail end of the zip tie, this will help to block them off from the rats so that they can't accidentally scratch themselves on there. And personally, I chose to tie some fabric around each of my zip ties. It did take a little bit longer than the zip ties themselves. However, I like the peace of mind of knowing that my rats can't accidentally scratch themselves. And I also like the fact that it makes it a little bit more chew resistant, even though, like I said, my current group of rats isn't big on chewing plastic. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick DIY, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!